There are just 2 more episodes left of Listen to Your Heart, which means we're right near the end, folks. This thing is almost over. And after that, well, I don't want to talk about it. And with it being so close to the end, we're going to be discussing who's going to be making it to the finals and what that might look like. Because after this episode, we're there. So let's waste no time and take a look at this preview and see what we can sleuth out.
We have tour buses!
Our final 4 couples hit the road.
We're going to Vegas!
The final 4 are headed to Las Vegas, and in this section, we can knock off one of the shots from past previews that we still haven't seen of Natasha and Ryan. We're actually getting down to the point where there's really not much preview footage left of anyone. At least footage that isn't also covered in this preview for week 5.
It's been my dream to be a touring musician.
This is like the real deal.
They're going for it all.
Now, one shot we haven't seen yet and won't be showing up in this preview is this shot that appeared in a pre-season preview of Trevor and Jamie in what appears to be some sort of fantasy suite scenario. Perhaps this shot here is the lead up to that.
You got this.
You got
Just like every single time.
Musical stardom and the love of a lifetime.
And here we have another shot from the previews that we can knock off. Natasha and Ryan in front of the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. Which kind of seems obvious, we were headed to Las Vegas anyways, but we're really starting to get rid of unseen shots from past previews this week, which of course makes the sleuthing harder. But there is still footage left unseen. Just a lot less.
I could feel the heat, and that felt really good.
I always wanted my dad to marry me.
Celebrity judges for this week are going to be Ashley Simpson Ross and Evan Ross. We also get Chris and Bree talking marriage, but I'll continue the preview before I share my thoughts on that.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna get married! What Chris and I have is true, undeniable love.
Chris and Bree getting married is a total fake out. I will eat my tinfoil hat if I'm wrong on this one. I can guarantee you this is just some sort of themed date where they head to the classic Little White Chapel in Vegas and either watch someone get married or perform for someone who's getting married. Followed, of course, by some advice from the proprietor or the people getting married on how to maintain a successful relationship. If Chris and Bree were actually going to get married, the people at The Bachelor would make so much more of a meal of it than having it on a date in episode 4.
I'm literally falling in love with the man of my dreams.
I want to tell him, but I'm scared he won't say it back.
So Jamie's ready to drop the L-bomb. And here again we have some footage I've been holding on to as proof that Jamie and Trevor make it further along in the show. These shots of them in this hockey rink. And of course Jamie is worried about if she should tell Trevor and if he'll say I love you back.
I take that word more seriously and sacred than any other word.
We're gonna vomit.
The classic I won't say it 'cause I take that word seriously. Which is valid because they've been dating for like no time at all. But this dramatic music doesn't necessarily mean he won't say it back. It seems like each of these past few previews has had something that ends up being the opposite. Like Sheridan and Julia 2 weeks ago being told they had no chemistry during their performance, which ended up being untrue. Or this past week with Jamie receiving praise in the preview from Andy Grammer, which also ended up being untrue as he was actually talking to Natasha.
But the drama backstage threatens to tear them apart.
Natasha was manipulated.
It never should have happened.
And Natasha here getting more of a villain edit, especially now that Julia and Brandon have been sent home. Could be a bad sign for her, but let's continue before we talk potential eliminations.
This whole thing has been an emotional roller coaster.
Add Rudy and Matt to the drama, and we're looking at pretty much all couples except Chris and Bree in a trouble spot, which actually seems pretty accurate. That seems about right.
I'm here to find love, but if he doesn't see a potential with me, I'm wasting my time.
So it looks like Rudy and Matt have some sort of conversation about their relationship and where things are headed as the show comes to a close. Now, one thing I can tell you for sure is that whatever happens, they make it to the judged performances at the end of the episode. We can see them in this shot from the preseason preview, and again here in this shot from this preview. So that much we know.
I'm freaking out. I put myself out there to before.
And here the preview ends, with Rudi putting herself out there and not liking the result. Could Rudi and Matt's romantic chemistry falter as a result and thus lead to their elimination? Well, let's take a look at what we do know, which at this point is pretty much one thing. Chris and Bree make it to the finals. Now, I know that's not exactly the most blockbuster surprise of the season. They're the obvious frontrunners because they are great performers and the only couple who seem to be genuinely falling in love. The two main factors for success on this show. But also take a look at this shot. This is from a performance that we haven't seen before and won't be showcased next week. How do we know that? Well, one, these outfits aren't ones that we've seen them perform in yet. But two, check out the judges in the background. There's Jason and former Bachelorette Caitlin Bristow, and here's Taye Diggs and Rita Wilson. I know this for sure because, you guessed it, they showed up in the preseason preview. But with next week's judges being Ashley Simpson Ross and Evan Ross, and it being known that former Bachelor Ari and his wife Lauren are going to be Bachelor Nation judges at some point, not to mention after a little digging I found this photo of them judging next week's performances, it's safe to assume that this shot is from the final performance. Meaning we've got solid proof that Chris and Bree make it all the way to the end. As for the other three, we're going to have to think a little bit outside of the box now that 99% of the footage from past previews is looking to show up in the next week's episode. So first, we don't know whether or not it will be one or two couples eliminated before the finale. I'd imagine it's just one, because we won't be having a pre-performance send-off like what happened with Sheridan and Savannah. All couples will be making it to the end of episode performance. But hey, Chris Harrison could surprise us and say there are only 2 couple roses to give out at the end of the night. So with Chris and Bree being locks for moving on, that leaves 1 of 3 or maybe even 2 of 3 possibilities for eliminations. And there is some evidence to suggest Trevor and Jamie make it to the finale. For one, they seem to be the most likely couple of the 3 to actually say I love you to each other at some point. As for the other 2, well, Matt and Rudi seem to have some trouble ahead for them, and Natasha might be headed for a stronger villain edit in the next episode. And if I'm looking at things from an editor or showrunner's point of view, I haven't seen enough romantic connection between the 2 to suggest they might profess their love for each other next week. Not only that, but everything with Natasha and Ryan up to this point has all been about Natasha. Both performances, the judges have told her she's a star and that Ryan is just generally there in her orbit. So considering all that, if I'm an editor at The Bachelor, I'm thinking there's really only one couple that, at this point, has a chance to get viewers believing they have as good a shot at winning this thing as Bree and Chris do. And that couple is Trevor and Jamie. Not to mention, we have one more shot that I have yet to see on the show. This one of Trevor entering a hotel room. Now, before, I had always assumed that this shot was of Trevor entering into a room where this will happen. But now, we have 2 shots of hotel rooms and Trevor. And even though Trevor is wearing a very similar shirt in the shot, giving reasonable doubt to the idea that this might be 2 different locations from 2 different weeks, I'd say there's enough evidence to suggest that he makes it to the final episode with Jamie, leaving Rudy and Matt and Natasha and Ryan. Either both go, or one goes. In the event it's just one, it's hard to tell who that might be. My gut leads me towards Natasha and Ryan going simply because of the edit Natasha is getting and this past preview clip too.
Oh God, I just hope he doesn't hate me.
For me, what it really comes down to is weighing Natasha's star power and performance ability versus Rudi and Matt's potential connection. Now, even with all this drama that's teased in the preview with Matt and Rudi, considering they make it to the end of episode performance, who's to say that during the episode, when they have that conversation about where things stand in their relationship, that they don't have some sort of breakthrough and end up stronger than ever? If that's the case, we might be looking at an easy way into the final 3 couples. Now, that's just what my gut is telling me, but honestly, if only one team goes, I'd say it's a coin flip between Natasha and Ryan and Matt and Rudi. But the betting man in me would say, Natasha and Ryan, I'm looking at you. So there you have it, the Week 5 preview breakdown for Listen to Your Heart. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did, and of course leave your thoughts, theories, and speculations for the last 2 episodes in the comments section below. I'll be back with more content before you know it, so until then, Bachelor Fantake, out.
This whole thing has been an emotional roller coaster.